In the next installment of our Hidden Victims series, we explore how an unjust killing by police reverberates throughout an entire family, and in doing so, alters the lives of the women who care for them. The victim, Anthony Anderson, was walking across this vacant lot in Baltimore in the Broadway East neighborhood when he was thrown violently to the ground by police in 2012. The officers claimed they saw Anderson purchase drugs. But it's an area where residents say aggressive plainclothes officers called knockers predominate and act violently. One of them who spoke to us did not want us to show his face out of fear of retaliation by police.
Yeah, we call them knockers too, you know, and they're still around. They'll show up, they'll wait on a corner, distance away, maybe half a block away, 4 or 5 of them in a car, in maybe a repossessed car or something like that. And then if they see you making a drug transaction, or they see what they feel is a transaction being made, they'll rush up there and jump out of the car and grab whoever doesn't run. And you really don't want to run from them because you don't want to get shot.
Anderson was thrown to the ground with such extreme force, he died from a ruptured spleen on the spot. His death was ruled a homicide, but then City State's Attorney Greg Bernstein declined to press charges against the officers. At the time, Bernstein said the actions of the officer and the use of force was justified. And the city settled a civil lawsuit out of court for $300,000 without admitting to any wrongdoing. But Anderson's son, Marcus Pettifor, disagreed with his family's decision to settle and wanted the case to go to trial. A death at the hands of police of an unarmed African-American man not suspected of a violent crime is not an uncommon event in America. In 2017, police were 3 times as likely to kill an African-American as a white person. 30% of those victims were unarmed. In fact, like Anderson, in 2014, roughly 2/3 of the African Americans killed by police were not armed and were not suspected of a violent crime. And so Marcus, like many others, is forced to suffer without full accountability. Which is why in this piece we focus on Marcus's relationship with his wife, Nicole, and how the loss has affected their relationship, and the story of the love that this tragedy spawned.
My father was a very energetic person. Like, he could come into the room and it could be a room full of sad faces or mad faces, and before he would leave, everyone would have laughter on their face or smiles. He just wanted everybody to, you know, not take life so seriously, and he just wanted everyone to, you know, just to be happy, you know, and I feel as though that he didn't deserve what happened to him at all.
Well, I never really got the chance to meet him. At the time, I was pregnant with his grandchild, who later passed away due to the stress and the anxiety and the pain that I was going through, that my father-in-law was murdered for no apparent reason. They never actually told him the reason why they approached him from the beginning. It was cruel. It was heartless. It didn't make any sense at all why they did what they did, and no human being deserves that. I love him through his son. I get to know him and acknowledge him through his son.
He was preparing for my then 2-year-old niece birthday party, which was supposed to take place the very next day. So he went to the store, and as he was coming back across the lot, he had shook files with one of his acquaintances. As he got near my grandmother's house, they crept up behind him. They say that they said, "Halt, police, stop!" But he was on a cane because he was preparing for bunion surgery. They told everyone that he tried to run which was very hard for someone on a cane anyway. So they said they claimed that they saw a hand-to-hand transaction between him and the acquaintance, but they never found anyone. You know, they so-called did field interviews, and they never found anyone that could attest to their story. As they crept behind them across the parking lot, one of the officers hoisted him over his head and slammed him on his neck and head area. So right then and there, he was already starting to die. You know, so they held him up, and one of the other officers basically bent him over his knee to hold him up straight. And my grandmother and my brother and my aunt, they all come rushing out the house because I guess maybe somebody saw what was going on. They knew my father, so they ran and told my grandmother what was going on. So they all came out there. And so my grandmother was like, you know, what are you doing to my son? The exact words from one of the police officers, he said, back up before we do this to you. Everything happens for a reason, because at the time I was at work. I know if I was there, I probably would have died next to that lot too, because I wasn't going to let them talk to my grandmother like that. I got the phone call. My sister was hysterical. She said, they killed Daddy, they killed Daddy. I said, oh, calm down, what's going on? So I told my manager, I said, I need to take this phone call, because I don't know what's going on. So I went outside, and she was like, they killed Dad. I said, who? I said, how do you know he died? How do you know he's dead? Like, we saw it. She was like, the police. That's all she kept saying. But she wouldn't tell me the whole story. She just kept saying, the police. So I immediately broke down. So I was like, and I was just sitting there, and you know, all the, my fellow employees came out there. You know, they saw me distraught. They said, what's going on? So I couldn't talk. And my voice was gone. So they was like, look, my manager was like, look, you need to go home. And you're not gonna be able to focus. I was gonna stay until the end of my shift. But they kind of begged me and pleaded with me, like, look, go home, take care of it.
My husband doesn't have any children at all. It was a planned pregnancy, and I wanted another baby before I even met my husband. But that made it that much more special to be with a man who wanted the same exact thing that I wanted. We actually found out that it was a little girl. You know, she was born, she lived for 5 minutes, and then she passed away. We gave her a name. Her name was Natasha. That's beautiful. And Natasha, she loved her daddy. When he came in from work, he would talk to my stomach, and she would move around and everything, and he was like, hey, what are you in there doing? And it's like she heard her daddy. She knew that that was her daddy. And when he passed away, it was such an emptiness. It was such a sadness, and I've always known from experience that your baby feels what you feel. And she felt that emptiness, like, Mommy, Daddy, your whole mood changed. You still talk to me, but I don't feel the happiness, the love that I used to feel when you used to talk to me. And no matter how hard we tried to actually continue on with that love and with that spirit, it was really difficult, because he was a part of us, and she was a part of us, and she was a part of him. And the only way I can cope with it is that Natasha's in heaven with Granddad. They're playing, they're loving each other, and they're watching over us. And when she passed away, she died with her hand over her heart. And it was like, she was telling me, Mommy, I'm okay. I'm going home now. I did what I was supposed to do, which was come here and to prepare you that I was going home with Granddad. That was the worst experience of my life, to have two people that I loved, and it didn't matter that I never met him. I loved him because that was my family. And I felt as though you robbed me of the chance to be with my family. You robbed me of the opportunity for my family to get to see the other part of my family. You destroyed us.
I mean, I'm healed from it, but it's just kind of tough, you know, to wake up every morning and see his face all over again. So I never really will get a chance to forget, for lack of better words, because the mirror is a constant reminder. I had to get rid of all mirrors in the world for me not to, you know, get emotional every time, you know, or think of him every time I see my reflection.
I didn't know how to console him at the time. I didn't know what to say. There are no words to say. Sorry doesn't cut it. And if is a very big word for it to only be 2 letters. If he hadn't went to the store that day, would he still be here? If he had turned around at the right time, would he still be here? That was terrible. If my husband had been there at that time, would that situation have happened? And I have to face this if word every day. For 6 years, I had to constantly know in my mind, if.
Everybody else basically, you know, has forgotten about him, so to speak. Like, you know, they don't do the rallies, you know, they don't do the marches, you know, they don't talk about him on social media or anything like that. You know, every chance I get, you know, I try to keep his name out there.
I love him with everything in me and more, because I know he feels the same way about me. You can tell somebody you love them all day, but this man shows me 24 hours a day how he feels about me. And I do the same for him. His pain is my pain. My pain is his pain. And God has it all planned out.
And so Marcus, like many others, is forced to suffer without full accountability. Which is why in this piece we focus on Marcus's relationship with his wife Nicole, and how the loss has affected their relationship, and the story of the love that this tragedy spawned.